On the eve of the 30th year of democracy in South Africa, the Market Theatre will premiere a new play looking at politics, corruption and the abuse of power. The Brothers #1 and a weekend special chronicles one of the government's biggest corruption scandals, state capture. The play is Emeritus constitutional law professor Richard Calland's debut play and will be directed by Homann and director at the Market Theatre. They join us now to tell us more about this new production premiering next month. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Gwena. Good to be with you.
Greg, let me start with you and just basically on putting together a play like this, and especially something that reflects what we have seen, what we have experienced, and one can even dare say what we are still going through as a people.
Sure, yes. So, I mean, it's a play that Richard sent to me in my capacity as artistic director here at the Market Theatre I think about 8 months ago. And I read it and was really impressed with kind of how it connects the dots of something that we've lived through, something that we've lived through as South Africans, but perhaps haven't necessarily taken account of all of the threads that make up this really complex web that ultimately delivered this really damaging period in our recent history that we still have to deal with on a daily basis. So I was very excited by the content of the piece when I read it, and we've been working on the play ever since and are now in a rehearsal room with it. And it felt like a great opportunity to, on the eve of our 30 years of democracy and as we approach voting for our national election, that the Market Theatre, as the Market Theatre does best and has done for almost 50 years, is position a political play and go, look, let's take stock of where we're at as a country and let's consider who we are, where we're going, what we've become. And so it feels like a really exciting and appropriate play for us to be working towards presenting in a few weeks' time.
Richard, let me bring you into the conversation and just on the general idea, what was it that sort of necessitated you to say, I want to tell this story, but I want to tell it in a more artistic way?
Yeah, thanks, Gwena. This year also marks my 30 years in this country, and during that 30 years I've been immersed in the politics of the country in different ways, working for IDASA, lobbying the Constitutional Assembly as the final constitution was written, observing, commenting on and writing books and many, many columns about politics in this country. But as the state capture years unfolded and as the Zondo Commission unfolded, my concern was that this country has got a kind of high threshold for resilience and for moving on, and that the story might get lost. And so I turned my hand to trying to use art, drama, and in this case a play, to try and keep that story alive in a way that would last longer than my political columns. You know, the old joke about a newspaper report of column being tomorrow's fish and chips wrapper, I think is apt here. Art and drama last longer. It really does if you get it right. And I'm hopeful that with Greg's direction, this is going to be a stunning production, which is going to not only enrapture the people who come to the Market Theatre to see it, but actually live longer than that. And keep the story alive, because it's a really important story about how democracy was nearly stolen during the Zuma years.
One thing about theatre, Richard, is that it evokes emotion either way. You know, when somebody is on stage and performing a piece of whatever form, it's about emotion. What sort of emotion are you trying, or were you trying to get from us who will be watching the play, who will be experiencing the play when you wrote it?
Yeah, that's a great and Gwena, a very challenging question. I think a mixture of kind of emotions, frustration, anger even, at what's happened, at what's been lost, empathy, however, because of the predicament that political characters often find themselves in. And this play is about dilemmas and about predicaments, ethical and political. And some of the main characters find themselves caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of where to go. And towards the end, and I have to be careful here not to say too much, which is for a political analyst difficult, because I'm normally on your show, Gwena, and your colleague's show, trying to say with great certainty and precision what is happening and what's going to happen next. And here I have to do almost the opposite and hold back. But towards the end, I think one gets a sense of, this 30-year arc of democracy, of challenge, of trial and tribulation, but also of great hope and resilience.
Greg, just back to you then on the actual putting together of the play and getting the right talent for delivery. Just tell us about that process, just to make sure that you send the right message, to the point that I was making with Richard, that art and theatre is about emotion, to get that right emotion for us, and especially as South Africans, because these are things that we, one way or the other, have experienced.
Yes, and with this, it's a very delicate balance, because all of the characters that Richard has created on the page and that has created in a kind of dramatic form have a very real-world root. We know who these people are. We've seen them on our televisions. They've been our presidents. They've been our spokespeople. They've been our investigative journalists. They've been the opposition leaders in Parliament. So we know who these people are. The play is very clever, I think, though, in that it doesn't actually use the name of anyone in terms of the characters in the play. But we've had to cast in a way that people go, oh, I know who that is. That's this person. So we've got an amazing cast that we've managed to put together. Some real iconic South African actors who are at the forefront of their careers. So David Dennis returns to the stage after a gap. He's currently the dean of AFTA in Johannesburg, but he's returning to the stage for this production. Someone I've worked with many times and a well-known face. Michael Richard, who was recently on stage with John Carney and won the Naledi Award just last year for his performance alongside John Carney in John Carney's play. Zane Mears, who's well known to many people through his extensive TV work over the years. So those three figures, Michael Richards, Zane Mears, and David Dennis, are sort of the anchor points of it. And then we've got Astrid Braaf, Melissa Hayden, and Ziapora Dakile, who are the other three roles, who are maybe less known to an audience, but are filling really kind of important roles. And you're absolutely right. We need a balance here between truth and fiction, and be able to represent, a bit like, I suppose, something like The Crown does, where you're representing known events and known characters in a way that we recognize them, but that can really tap into the theatrical weight of the piece, and most importantly, can get an audience to feel these relationships. Because what theatre does best, other than make us think, is make us feel. And so it's really wonderful to have an incredible cast who can bring this play that Richard's written to life on stage.
Richard, this is your debut as a playwright. What was the transition like, moving to everything else and to putting characters, and then to Greg's point, where these are characters that we know, but you have to create them in a different way?
Another great question. I spent, probably not the only person, I spent Good Friday yesterday using the day off to kind of sort out my study at home and clean out papers and sort out files. And I came across a couple of those big ring binder folders with all my articles and newspaper columns from the 90s and early 2000s, because obviously the internet wasn't around. I didn't trust the internet. I thought I'd better, cut them out and religiously keep them. And the point I'm getting to is that I've written a lot of political columns over the years, a lot of political commentary, and it's become second nature. What I guess I wanted to tease out was whether the play that I thought I had in me could actually turn out to be something on a page. And I started to try that. And I was very lucky to be brought up in London with a father who was a real culture addict, who loved plays and took me as a young child and teenager to many, many plays in London. And I was, with hindsight, incredibly lucky and privileged in that sense. So I always felt I maybe had a play in me. But I was also conscious of the fact that, if you use a sporting analogy, just because you're a good cricketer doesn't mean you can be a good footballer. Just because you can run 100 meters doesn't mean you can run a marathon. Writing is in different genres is very, very different. And I found that. I found the first draft relatively easy, but the redrafting and the rewriting under Greg's patient and skillful and expert tuition, I found really difficult and challenging. And I've had to learn a whole new way of doing things, of course. And it's through dialogue, and it's through, even more importantly, the dramatic characterization of the points you want to make. You have to make it very subtly, but also, of course, very powerfully. So I've learned a huge amount. It's been a wonderful experience, and I'm thrilled at the opportunity to have this play dedicated to my wonderful father on stage.
And I guess the title also, if you follow, Richard, if you follow South African politics, you would know who these characters are, isn't it?
Well, that's right.
The Weekend Special, the Brothers, number one. So these are people that we know.
That's right. And it begins, I don't think I'm revealing too much here if I say the play begins in December 2015 with the Weekend Special, with the moment, that dramatic moment, which I'll never forget, because at the time I heard it, Wednesday night, the 15th of December 2015, the moment when Jacob Zuma overreached, in my view as an analyst, the moment at which you can trace back to his downfall in the end. He just went too far in trying to point a completely unknown and equally corrupt individual to be the Minister of Finance, the Weekend Special as he became known. And a whole lot of things flowed from that.
Greg, as we conclude, tell us a little bit about the play. When is it starting and where? And for people that want to find a little bit more information and come through and experience this play.
Sure. So we're in rehearsals at the moment, and we start previewing on the 20th, and we have low-price previews from the 20th of April, but we officially open on the eve of 30 Years of Democracy. So on the 26th of April, we officially open for a run that at the moment is running till the 12th of May. And it's at the Market Theatre, and tickets are via web tickets. So you can either visit web tickets and just put in The Brothers and it'll pop up with its full title, or you can go to the Market Theatre's website, which is markettheatre.co.za. And as I say, it's part of our 30 Years of Democracy season here at the Market Theatre. And I think it's going to be a really stimulating and exciting and brave and bold way of us approaching our 30th year of democracy on the eve of Freedom Day.